Chapter 7, Part 2 by Alicia Stewart, Devin Faircloth, and Aaron Wallace. This part will be read by Aaron Wallace. Frequency of feedback. The purpose of feedback is to give students help, support, and guidance as they are learning new information. Feedback is important to student growth and development. It is important that feedback is given to students throughout the lessons because they need to not only hear from their teacher, but also check themselves and their peers as the lesson moves forward. There needs to be checks to see if students are following along and are on the right track with what they need to know. Individual feedback is important throughout the lesson. It is likely that if a teacher gives feedback to the class as a whole, most of the students will not take that feedback to heart due to the fact that it is not directed specifically at them. According to Higgins, Hartley, and Skelton, sometimes students have a difficult time understanding teachers' feedback and comments and therefore are not sure exactly what they need to do with it. It is important that the information provided to the students is clear and concise. Teachers are often concerned with the amount of feedback that they give during class, but in reality, the focus really should be on how much feedback is received by the students, because only through this will change be able to be made. The students have to be able to receive the feedback, otherwise the teacher's words are almost useless. During lessons, the feedback should be aimed at attempting to get the right proportions of the 4 levels of learning, that is, task, process, regulation, and self. Depending on what stage of learning the students are at, that kind of feedback that is given should match that level. Types of feedback. Confirmation and disconfirmation are 2 types of feedback. Confirmation is feedback that tells students that they are on the right track and are moving in the right direction. Disconfirmation, on the other hand, is feedback that tells students when they have an idea that is incorrect or when new information is given to them that goes against that of the current expectations. Disconfirmation can actually be helpful to students even more so than confirmation. That is, if the correction is accepted by the students. This is because this is where change and growth can take place. As noted in the book, feedback is most powerful when it addresses an area where students have faulty interpretations. According to Kang, McDermott, and Roediger, students tend to show more growth when they are given specific feedback on incorrect answers. Student retrieval performance improves here. Errors welcomed. If a student has already mastered a piece of specific material, then feedback will not be as effective. As mentioned in the previous slide, students benefit the most from feedback when the feedback provides correction and insight into faulty interpretations or incorrect answers. In order for this feedback to take place, students have to be willing to take risks and make mistakes openly in the classroom. The class climate needs to be one where students feel comfortable and do not feel like they will be ridiculed or made fun of if they make a guess that is wrong or incorrect. Errors and mistakes are learning opportunities, and this learning will only take place if students are willing to take these risks. Students need to understand that making a mistake or saying the wrong answer out loud is not the worst thing in the world. It is up to the teacher to set an atmosphere where students react well to one another, even when the answers are wrong. And it is also up to the teacher to set a class climate where high levels of self-regulation for errors are valuable. Teachers who are effective in the classroom look at the factors that they can control. They do not focus on the outside factors that they cannot control. Effective teachers observe and assess what is working and not working in their classroom, and they make the appropriate adjustments so that they can improve the learning of the students in their classroom. Just as students need to learn and grow from mistakes and feedback, so do teachers. Assessment is feedback. Assessment really can be a powerful tool if a teacher uses it to look at which students in his or her class are moving forward with material in the unit and which students need more help. Then assessment can be very helpful. Also, it is a good tool to help a teacher determine what parts of the lessons or unit he or she has taught well and thoroughly. It can help a teacher determine if he or she needs to do any reteaching or approach a certain topic in a different way. Assessments can help show the strengths and weaknesses of particular students and what they need to work on. If there's a gap in teaching where the students are missing information and are struggling to fully comprehend what they need to know, then the teacher can make appropriate changes. Also, an assessment can give information about the 3 questions: where am I going? How am I going there? Where to next? And the assessment as feedback can be very helpful. Teachers should use assessments not just to look at their students, but also to look at themselves and how they are teaching. Assessment for learning. According to Black and William, assessment for learning is based on 5 key factors. These factors include: do students care about their learning, as in, are they a part of their own learning processes? Do they take responsibility and want to take an active role in what they are doing in class? Is effective feedback given to students? Does the teacher give specific and helpful feedback? Does the student work well with peers and receive feedback from them and give them feedback? Does the teacher pay attention to what is going on in terms of learning in the classroom for his or her students? If there is a gap in learning, does the teacher pick up on this by viewing assessment results and proceed to make adjustments in response to these assessment results? Do the students know how to assess themselves? Can they be objective and look at what they know and assess their written work and responses? In the classroom, is the importance and value that comes with students' motivations and self-esteem realized and taken into account? All of these factors should be considered. From these 5 factors, Black and William devised 5 strategies. Clarifying and sharing learning intentions and criteria for success, which is basically making sure that students understand what the teacher wants, is one of the first strategies. Creating effective classroom discussions and other learning tasks that demand that students show evidence for what they think and say is also important. Providing feedback that moves students towards progression. Giving feedback where their goal is to help them get to the next step. Helping students see each other as instructional resources and being able to work together and evaluate and assess, collaborate. And lastly, helping students become the owners of their own learning. Students should view their learning and as their responsibility. If they want to know something or learn something, they need to put in the effort and do what they can to make it happen. All of this should be taken into consideration so that students and teachers can say whether or not it is time to slow down or time to go ahead and move on to the next item. Rapid formative assessment. Williams makes the claim that rapid formative assessment can provide great gains in student learning, upwards of 70%. That's a lot. Rapid formative assessment is a formative assessment that teachers give to students anywhere from 2 to 5 times per week during the lessons. During these checks, students need to know 3 things. They need to know exactly what the evaluating criteria is, that is, how are they going to be assessed. They should know how to work with partners or small groups in order to collaborate. And having to work with others and evaluate and judge their work, they will likely become more familiar with making judgments and be able to look more objectively at their own work as well. Lastly, students should keep in mind the whole time what the goal is for their work and use this to help guide them so that they'll be more independent learners and will be able to take more control of their learning. Prompts, precursors to feedback. There are different kinds of prompts that can be used. Organizational prompts, elaboration prompts, and monitoring for progress prompts are 3 prompts that are valuable. An example of an organizational prompt would be, how can you best structure the learning content in a meaningful way? An elaboration prompt could be, can you create links between the contents of this lesson and your knowledge from other everyday examples? The purpose of this is to have students make a connection between what they know and what they're learning. And monitoring progress prompts. For example, what main points have I understood well and what things have I been confused about? Teachers need to know when to use the prompts depending on what stage of learning the students are in. The teacher also needs to know when to remove the prompt so that the student can take on more a role of responsibility for his or her learning. This is scaffolding. The main benefits of using prompts is because if there is a deficiency where the student is having difficulty understanding something fully, then that deficiency is quickly identified so that it can be addressed. When students use prompts, they are also more likely to be able to put time and effort into the strategies that they can come up with to help create a plan so that they can make learning more their own and improve their understanding of the material.